Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Yamunatira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Vihare Gopijana Balava Girivardhana Gopijana Balava Girivardhana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Yamunatira Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Prabhupada Paramahamsa Gacchara Sarada Shishana Vaingre Sesi Bhakti Vedanta Samarasha Upadki Ananta Guri Vaishnava Vindhya Namacharya Shanstaku Ki Jai Prem Jagasi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kundaran Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navitam Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Gongamayi Ki Jai Yamuna Mayi Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Ki Jai Gauda Pramanandi. All glories to the Assembly devotees, all glories to the Assembly devotees, all glories to the Assembly devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Gauranga, glories to Shri Prabhupada. Ich bin das so gewohnt. Nach dem Jayarada Madhava, Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa. Das hat Prabhupada gemacht. Das hören wir manchmal auf den Videos. Wenn wir ich bin halt alte Schule. So, wir lesen weiter aus dem Transcendental Diary. Prabhupada ist immer noch in Sri Vrindavan Dham. The gears are beginning to mesh in what is becoming an ISKCON-wide effort to counter the deprogrammed attack in America. Spurred on by Srila Prabhupada, Gopal Krishna Prabhu has been active in the effort to garner support here from India. Das haben wir schon gelesen. Simply by manufacturing, constructing a big, high skyscraper building doesn't mean he's civilized. It is passionate work, but this is not civilization. Chanakya Pandit has given the formula of civilization, 3 words, Matrat Para Dareshu. Where is that civilization? To consider every woman as mother, except one's own married wife, all women, mother. Where is that civilization? That should be, otherwise there cannot be social regulation. Matrat para dareshu para dravyeshu loshtavat. Others' property is just like garbage in the street. Nobody touches the garbage. That is civilization. Prabhupada inquired about several members of parliament who have expressed support in the recent past. But Gopal Krishna told him that although they speak favorably in private, they will not put anything in writing because of the ruling of Congress party policy. He recalled that one member with whom Tejas is friendly had nevertheless refused to sign a recommendation for Tejas to get his Indian citizenship. Srila Prabhupada is quite disgusted with the Indian leadership, but he told Gopal Krishna that at least a recent letter from Brahmananda Reddy, the Home Minister, granting non-Commonwealth devotees 2 years visas could be used. Yes, I have that letter, Gopal confirmed. That letter says they have come to study Vedic literature. Prabhupada stated emphatically that the support of the Indians in America is essential. That is the most important thing, that you cannot discriminate against minority communities. That is against American Constitution. Drawing from his experience in dealing with similar attacks in Germany, Hansaduta Maharaj suggested that we should have all the centers in important cities around the world, from delegations to visit their local United States consulates, with petitions. Gopal Krishna added that Rameshwar has suggested that here in India we found our life members. Oh, there's a mistake here. We find our life members to send a petition of telegrams to the American consulate. The consulate would then transmit the telegram to the State Department in Washington. Srila Prabhupada approved both ideas. So we hear Prabhupada in the middle of the fire. Prabhupada was never sidelines. He was always the center of everything. He was our natural leader. In the beginning, as we all know, they used to call him Swamiji. Swamiji is a very, very personal and more or less formless ways of directing yourself to somebody. But Prabhupada, later, how say it? Later or tarde? Was it in English? No. Früher oder später? Sooner or later. Sooner or later, he explained to the devotees that that was actually not the real way, the Paka way, how to direct yourself to the spiritual master. And he gave us options, and the devotees selected amongst these options. They selected Prabhupada. Of course, this was not so much appreciated by his godbrothers. Actually, there's a conversation with Prabhupada with his godbrothers. They're attacking him for that. And Prabhupada just said, I didn't select it, my disciples selected it. They selected it. And so he passed it on. So then, also interesting here, Prabhupada is quite frequently quoting this saying from Chanakya Pandit, which we also mentioned once, and it called your attention, remember? That one should treat all ladies with the same respect as you would respect your mother. Actually, he says here, except for your own wife, you should direct yourself or address all the ladies as mother. Of course, nowadays they have a different idea and different conceptions, but this is actually what Prabhupada taught us. And he didn't invent this. You can see he's taken it from a cultural background. Prabhupada used to say that Chanakya Pandit was not actually a devotee, he was not a Vaishnava, but he was a very reasonable and very educated Brahmin. He was so highly respected that even the king used to come and see him, take advice from him. And we come by foot, not with all the etiquette and all that. He would come by foot and pay obeisances to his. He actually made him like the first and most important minister. And Chanakya just lived outside the palace in a small hut, very simple. Of course, in India you can have a hut. It's never so cold or so, like that. But anyway, so he would live there, and he would never ever go into enter into the palace, because this was against his standard. Because when you're exposed to opulence, material opulence, naturally become agitated or confused, at least. So he would not compromise. It also, Prabhupada used to say that Chanakya Pandit would just give an instruction to the king, or suggestion to the king, and he would never repeat it. That means there was no discussion or anything. He would just say it, and the king would, okay, namaste. Would just accept. So this is, of course, a different culture. No, we hear here about the problems of brainwashing, the accusations of brainwashing and all this in America. They didn't treat us with the same respect. In the beginning, they couldn't figure out what we were actually doing, and they speculated all kinds of things. Of course, then Prabhupada is mentioned here also. Prabhupada wanted us very much to work with the Indians also, get the support of the Indians. Prabhupada used to call the Indians our most important allies. And you can see it also here. Whenever Indians come, at least Indians, well-cultured Indians, ladies in saris, and the men very respectful like that. It's very impressive for people. They can see, oh, this is not just this group. It's not just how you say, a sect of young people who invented their own thing. But actually it's something serious. When the Indians come and they pay obeisances and this, there's some seriousness there. That's why Prabhupada wanted the Indians to help, to participate in our activities. And naturally the Indians also have one part of their culture is they're not only respectful with the monks and the devotees like that, but they also have this tradition of giving donations. So when they are inspired, they can give donations. I mean, provided they have some. They have some kind of opulence. But normally in the West, I don't remember here now because I'm not so much accustomed here anymore. But in those places where they're Indians, Indian communities, normally they're businessmen. And they have come with that purpose. Or they sent by their families to certain places to do business and then support them also. That's what also all the young Indians who come here to study. Not all, but the original idea was that they study here, then they work, get a lot of money, and support their parents and who knows what, like that. And then sometimes later they go back. When they're at a certain age, they go back, and the family arranges for a wife to marry, like that. Of course, it's a completely different culture. But there's culture still. There's still some culture. Anyway, so we hear here that Prabhupada was very eager to have the cooperation of the Indians. The same thing happened also in Russia. That they were accusing the movement to propagate violence. Krishna is instructing Arjuna to kill his uncle and who knows what, family members and all that. And they made a whole case of it in Russia. But what happened was, then the devotees contacted people in India, even the government, and they supported them. Yes. So the Indian government kind of stepped a little back, maybe they'll push again in the future, as this government is becoming more and more kind of a dictatorial, how you say, dictator. Yeah, they will be able to do so many other things also. But I heard once that Putin mentioned something about the devotees. Maybe he had some contact with them, and he was kind of expressing his, how you say, respect for their principles and all that. I don't know if anyone here heard about this, but this was actually, I think it was brought up in the GBC once. So now any questions regarding what we read about Prabhupada? Yeah?
One question. When you make obeisances to Radharani, is it for us easier to see every woman as a mother, or is that help?
Sorry, what?
Is it help when we make obeisances to Srimati Radharani? Is that helpful to see every woman as a mother for us, or is that helpful for?
Interesting. I never heard that. Anyway, Baba just said you should pay respect to all the ladies. respect them as you respect your own mother, that's all. If you pay obeisance to Radharani, well, that's great. You know, you're very fortunate if you do that. If you have come to that platform to, you know, to realize something more about it. Yeah. Actually, it says, now you didn't mention Radharani. Radharani is supposed to be, or is, more, how you say, passionate? How is it in English? Yeah, passionate, you know, than Krishna. And also Radharani has Krishna under her, how you say, control. So as Srimad Radharani says, oh, Krishna, look at this devotee. He's very nice. And then Krishna also looks. That's the way. Just like this, that's the same thing with a spiritual master. No? If you call the attention of the spiritual master by your wonderful service, then Krishna is also, because spiritual master representing is a transparent medium, you know, of Krishna in the material world. Whatever you do for the spiritual master, whatever you sacrifice for the spiritual master is as good as, and it's our medium to Krishna. It's like when Prabhupada came. You know, nobody had any idea about Krishna. Well, maybe some, but very, very rare persons. So he just came and started chanting Hare Krishna, attracted the young people, was chanting. You know, most of what Prabhupada said were difficult to understand for the young people at that time. You know? And so then gradually they became attracted, became a little more purified like that. You know? And then kind of started accepting Prabhupada not just as a Swamiji, but actually as a very VIP, a very important person in their lives. Yeah. Krishna. Habe ich deine Frage eigentlich beantwortet? Oder?
Ja, danke mal.
Was habe ich denn gesagt?
Wir sollen jede Frau respektieren. Aber
Ja.
es ist auch gut, Radharani zu feiern.
Ja. Ich kann mich erinnern, when we were children, we also learned ladies first. You ever heard that? Mm. Ladies first? Mm. You would always open the door for the lady and let them pass first and all that. Maybe there was something like kind of respect. Yeah? It's just like Prabhupada says, it's just civilized society. These three things. Prabhupada only mentions two here. Yeah? There's respect all the ladies as you respect your own mother. Then don't touch anybody else's property. Just like you don't touch the garbage in the street. And what was the last one? I don't know.
Don't do to somebody which you know.
Oh, don't do nothing to anybody else that you wouldn't like to be done to you. I heard once that this principle of not touching the property of others. And Prabhupada also mentioned, sometimes I just heard it in a class of Prabhupada, in a conversation. Prabhupada said, in Vedic culture, somebody would lose something on the street, and nobody would touch it, and the person would come back and find it again. Yeah. Sometimes we also heard in the past, in the Arab countries, where they have this, what is that law, that Muslim law? Sharia. Yeah. So they have the same thing. When somebody steals something, the punishment is to cut off his hand. Finished. And that's good. Oh, hi. Are you? Why is this good? Because nobody will steal. Everyone wants to keep his hands. Yeah? Nobody will kill anybody because they don't want to be killed. No? Somebody kills something, according to that same system, he's hanged, finished. And that's also mercy, actually. That's actually mercy. Why? Because when he's killed, he's punished like that, this karma is immediately wiped off. And he can start with a sauberen Tafel, with a clean, how you say, Slate, with a clean slate. No? Whereas when he's not punished like that, this karma will extend like that. Okay, so let me put the marker. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading in English or Deutsch? Ja, hast du. Ha? Ja, ich habe die beiden Optionen. Ich habe die deutsches und englisches Buch und ich habe den Text auch in Englisch und Deutsch in wie nennt sich sowas noch? Das hier, das hat mir der barmherzigerweise der Paladar möglich gemacht. Hast du in Englisch eingestellt?
Ja, jetzt Englisch.
Okay. So, then welcher Vers war das? 18, ne?
18.
Ah, das ist wieder so ein langer Vers. Ich glaube, ich mache das allein. Ne, erstmal Wort per Wort. Tata, Agnidriya, no, Agnidriye, Sha, Kalayatarishyami, Atmatulyam, Anupalabhamaha, Tata Agnidriye Mrisha Kalayavatishnyamayi. Atmaturyam Anupalabhamanaha. Jemand? Jemand?
Tata Agnipriyeng Sakalaya Vatarishyami. Tata Agnipriyeng Sakalaya Atmatuyam Anupalabhamanaha. Atmatuyam Anupalabhamanaha.
Tata Anidriyem Shakalaya Bhaktarisyami. Tata Anidriyem Shakalaya Bhaktarisyami. Atmatuyam Anupalabhamana. Atmatuyam Anupalabhamana.
Tata Anidriyem Shakalaya Bhaktarisyami.
Tata Nidriyem Shakalaya Vatarishyami.
Atmatulyam Anupalabhamana.
Atmatulyam Anupalabhamanaha. Tata. Therefore, Agnitriye, in the wife of Nabhi, the son of Agnidra, Shakalaya, by an expansion of my personal form, Avatarishyami, I shall advent myself, Atmatulyam, my equal, Anupalabhamanaha, not finding. Translation of the verse. Since I cannot find anyone equal to me, I shall personally expand myself into a plenary portion, and thus advent myself in the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of Maharaj Nabi, the son of Agnidara. Purport. This is an example of the omnipotence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although he is one without a second, he expands himself by smangsa, his personal expansion, and sometimes by vibhinamsa, or his separated expansion. Lord Vishnu here agrees to see his personal, Lord Vishnu here agrees to send his personal expansion as the son of Meru Devi, the wife of Maharaj Nabi, who is the son of Agnidara. The Ritvijaya, the priests, knew that God is one, yet they prayed for the Supreme Lord to become the son of Maharaj Nabi, to let the world know that the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is without a second. When he incarnates, he expands himself in different potencies. So this is the whole purport. And so I just repeat it. Since I cannot find anyone equal to me, I shall personally expand myself into a plenary portion, and thus advent myself on the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of Maharaj Nabi, the son of Agnidara. So this is the preparation of the birth of Rishabdev, an incarnation of Krishna, or an expansion, like it says here, of Krishna. And it says here, the king was praying to the Lord to get a son like him. And it's expressed here that there's nobody like Krishna. There's only Krishna. So if you want a son like me, then I have to become your son. That's the logic behind this. Of course, this was very special. Whenever Krishna appears, it just doesn't appear just because of some prayers, but actually it was Krishna's Leela. He wanted to appear as Rishabdev. And Rishabdev was a very special king. As far as, when we continue reading now, he had 100 sons. So he was not an ordinary king. And his most important son was Bharata Maharaj. And there was also, it's mentioned that there were a few others who were also very, very special besides him. But actually Bharata Maharaj became the king. He was his eldest son, and he reigned over the whole world. This is not common anymore today. In the old days this was possible. And we all know, more or less, we all have heard more or less the story of Bharata Maharaj, how he left his kingdom. And he didn't leave it at the end, at his age of corresponding age, but he actually left his kingdom at I think 24, was it? I don't remember. Very young age. And he left for the forest. And he actually, Du habe ich gesagt? No. So Bharata Maharaj left early, Hare Krishna. And so it's even mentioned there that he achieved a very high platform of devotion to Krishna, Bhava platform. Prabhupada explains that he even though he was on the Bhava platform, he would still fall down from that platform. That means unless one is on the highest platform, Krishna Prema, Bhava is the preparing platform for Krishna Prema. And certain qualities are manifested on the Bhava platform. That's mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion by Srila Rupa Goswami. That's why it's called the science of devotional service, Nectar of Devotion. He gives us a whole science with all the symptoms and everything, so we can be guided properly, not be cheated by anybody or by any so-called spiritualists. Anyway, so they were praying to have a son like Krishna, and somehow or other, by the mercy of the Lord, or better to say by His will, by His plan, His, like Prabhupada used to say, His sweet will, completely independent of anything, He would select special families, special places to appear. And why would Krishna come? This is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Whenever irreligion is over, how you say it in English? Like overspilling? Dominant. It's dominant. And religion, or the real religion, Dharma, the eternal laws of Dharma, the divine laws of Dharma, Dharman tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. It says that the laws of Dharma can only be given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nobody else. Why is this? Because Krishna is perfect. I just heard a class with Prabhupada saying, giving the explanation of Bhagavan. Bhagavan. Prabhupada says, just like in our circle, there's some people who are beautiful, but there's always somebody more beautiful. And then again, there's somebody more beautiful, or the beautiful becomes old and how you say, ugly. And again, and they also have these competitions of the selected most beautiful women in the world, or something like that, or the strongest man, or something like that. So the strongest, and even stronger than the strongest, Krishna has unlimited strength. He has unlimited, incomparable beauty. He has incomparable knowledge, and he's not subject to the defects of conditioned souls. His laws are perfect. We shouldn't try to figure out how come they're perfect. We should just accept them as perfect and bas. And in this way, we understand. When we surrender to Krishna, all these things, these difficult things to understand, become understandable by the mercy of the Lord. Krishna gives us this realization of this intelligence from our heart, more and more. Sarvasya ham hridi sanivishto smritit jnanam apahanam cha. Krishna is situated in the heart, and from him comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. These things are not under control. I remember there was an article once, many years back, on Jahrzehnte, for Jahrzehnte. When Prabhupada had found his BI, his Bhakti Institute, and united scientists to how you say, propagate Krishna consciousness. And Krishna, I lost the point, I'm sorry. When you get old, this happened. Anyway, coming back to Bhagavan, so the most beautiful, the most strong, the most intelligent, the most famous. There's nobody as famous as Krishna. Just like his devotees also. Like Muhammad, or also Jesus Christ. They still speak about him. 2,000 years later. Nobody speaks about, well, they might be speaking very badly, about the former political leaders, and Hitler and Mussolini and all these big leaders from the past. They have normally created big troubles, big problems. And today we're still subject to the reactions of these former politicians like that. Just like in South America, they were glorifying Köln. How do you say Columbus? For a long time they were glorifying Columbus in all these Latin American countries, and now they pulling him down everywhere. Because they say this was a colonial explorer who came to South America, and they're destroying them everywhere. So after a while, all these leaders, popular leaders, they fall into disgrace. Whereas Krishna and his devotees, they always remain in history. Because our history, Vedic history, is much, much longer. Just like in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita, where Prabhupada speaks about the coming of the Lord. No, not the coming of the Lord, where he says that that he had given this knowledge, Bhagavad Gita, to the sun god in the beginning. Not in the beginning, but a long time ago. No, that was not even the beginning. Yeah? And then he speaks about the following persons who received that same knowledge. Yeah? And then at one point Prabhupada said, and that was also Ram. No, Ram, he lived like 2 million years ago. No? Where is our modern history? 2 million years ago. I was just reading, I will read now a little bit about Madhvacharya also, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But that's like I remember whenever we travel in India, especially in South India, and we come to these all these antique, how is that antique? Oh, super old temples. I remember we were, I think it was in Tirupati, and there was a guidance, somebody was guiding us. And he was speaking also, and this temple and these deities were also worshipped in another yuga, kind of. Or there's a deity, the deity that was worshipped. Ramachandra gave a deity to somebody, and that deity is still there, And then also there's another deity, Govindaji. Is it Govindaji? That Rupa Goswami established in Vrindavan, the famous Govindaji temple. And that deity was found. Was it Rupa Goswami himself? I think he had a dream, wasn't it? No, and it was discovered. No, Krishna spoke to him. And he was saying, I'm here under the earth, please get me out and give me a proper place. So he started building the temple, Govindaji. And this deity actually was a deity that was worshipped by the son of Krishna more than 5,000 years ago. Where are the equivalent? How do you say equivalent? Equivalent. In our modern history, Anyway, so these things are still there. Of course, the scientists might say, oh, this is exaggerated, this is just faith, this is just who knows what. But actually it's a fact. And as I mentioned before, if you accept it as a fact, then things will become understandable. This is the way how we understand things. We just accept what it says in the Shastra. We might question, but ultimately it's engraved in stone. How do you say? How is it in English? No? Engraved in stone. It's not invented, doesn't pass by it's not changed by different fashions or ideas or moods like they are changing. Like in our society here in Germany, it's incredible, the degradation and the new standards they're trying to establish. Anyway, so these appearances of Krishna re-establish. When Krishna comes, and things are degenerated, then he re-establishes according to time, place, and circumstances. Just like there's this verse in the Chaitanya, Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna, Eko Mahanguna. Does the verse begin? Kale Doshani de Aske Vaibhav. Kirtanadeva Krishna Mukta Sangha. It says that this Kali Yuga is compared to a big ocean of faults, of baddies, right? Baddies, mistakes or whatever it is. Ego Mahanguna, but there's just one quality in this Kali Yuga. Ego Mahanguna. What is that? The chanting of the holy names. This is the only good thing. And we're very fortunate actually that we have been introduced to this chanting of Hare Krishna. It says in Bhagavad Gita that amongst many thousands of men, maybe one becomes a devotee or takes interest in spiritual life. No? But by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representative, Srila Prabhupada, no, this is expanding all over the world. These news are distributing all over the world. That by the chanting of Hare Krishna you can achieve all perfection. Of course, when we speak about perfection, it's not exactly the same perfection as the karmis have or aspire for. They don't even understand the problem. They don't understand what the situation is here. They cannot understand that, well, they think that when you die, everything is finished. So let me do anything, because when death comes, it's finished. There's no such thing as karma or sinful reactions or whatever. But actually it's not a fact. The fact is, like Krishna explains to us in the Bhagavad Gita, we are eternal. We don't stop existing. And according to our activities, we reap the fruit, the reactions of all our activities. Just like Prabhupada gives the example, that's like when you go to school and you learn. A child goes to school. The child has no conception for the future. Doesn't think about the future. Just wants to play. I just heard a conversation with Prabhupada where Prabhupada told his disciples, I didn't want to go to school. When I was a child, I didn't want to go to school. I had no interest in going to school. I wanted to play. And then he says, but my parents forced me to go. They employed somebody who took me to school and waited and then brought me back home. Yeah, he gave this as an example. How children have no concept of the future. Anyway, but we shouldn't remain children. We should understand things properly. We should mature and make the best of the bad bargain that we have a human body to reawaken our dormant Krishna consciousness within the heart. This is the real value, the real treasure of this human form of life. That we reawaken our Krishna consciousness. We do that, all these many and innumerable problems will automatically be solved by the grace of the Lord. Or whatever appears will be to help us to understand things properly. Just like yesterday. What is yesterday? Yesterday I was supposed to go to a doctor in a different city. And my driver got in the car. I sat down and he couldn't start the car. Wow! Then somebody came, one of our bhaktas. I saw him this morning in Mangalati. He has his own car. So he all of a sudden appeared. So he gave the car to drive me. And then my driver smashed into a parked car. So what obvious that Krishna didn't want me to go to that place. And I told my driver a story that occurred in Brazil. I was visiting one devotee who was in charge of the BBT there, Portuguese BBT. A very important devotee. Anyway, so he had a flight to go somewhere for the BBT. And then he's got in a traffic jam. He came too late to the airport. So later we heard that this flight fell. How you say? Yeah, crashed. The plane crashed. So who knows? What Krishna's plans are. So we should just surrender, accept the conditions that we find, as part of our karma and also as part of Krishna's mercy, and be satisfied. And do as good as we can without being attached to the fruits, to the result. Our duty is just to execute our duties, to comply with our duties. And actually, like we used to always hear, as Sankirtan devotees, Prabhu, don't be attached to the result. You just try to distribute the books. Krishna gives the result. You're not in control of the results. Yeah? And if nothing would work, then Prabhu just continue. Yeah? Einfach weitermachen. Yeah? That's why was our mantra at that time. Einfach weitermachen, Prabhu. Yeah? And Krishna will arrange things the best he can. He always arranges everything best. Anyway, so I don't want to explain it unnecessarily because I still want to read something about Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya, yes, as we all know, is our Sampradaya Acharya. And it's mentioned, his name is also mentioned in the name of our Sampradaya. Brahma Madhva. But anyway, we'll hear about this later. So where Prabhupada mentions the life of Madhvacharya is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is the purport of a verse where it says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next arrived in Udupi, the place of Madhvacharya, where the philosophers known as Tattvavadis resided. There he saw the deity of Lord Krishna and became mad with ecstasy. Hare Krishna. And the purport, Sripad Madhvacharya took his birth near Udupi, which is situated in South Kannada, district of South India, just west of Sahyadri. This is the chief city of South Kannada province and is near the city of Mangalore, which is situated in the south of Udupi. Near the city of Udupi is a place called Pajaka Kshetra, where Madhvacharya took his birth in a Shivali Brahmana dynasty as the son of Madhyageha Bhatta in the year 1040 Shakapta, in parenthesis, AD. AD means, in English, how do you say it?
Das bedeutet nach Christus. Anno Domini.
Anno Domini, that's what I want. Anno Domini 1118. In the year Shakapta. According to some, he was born in the year 11,060, Shakapta, AD 12,038. In his childhood, Madhvacharya was known as Vasudeva. And there are some wonderful stories surrounding him. It is said that once, when his father had piled up many debts, Madhvacharya converted tamarind seeds into actual coins to pay them off. When he was 5 years old, he was offered the sacred thread. A demon named Maniman lived near his abode in the form of a snake. And at the age of 5, Madhvacharya killed that snake with the toe of his left foot. When his mother was very disturbed, he would appear before her in one jump. He was a great scholar, even in childhood, and although his father did not agree, he accepted sannyas at the age of 12. Upon receiving sannyas from Achyuta Preksha, he received the name Purna Pragya Tirtha. After traveling all over India, he finally discussed scriptures with Vidya Shankara, the exalted leader of Sringeri Math. Vidya Shankara was actually diminished in the presence of Madhvacharya, accompanied by Satyatirtha. Madhvacharya went to Bharadikashrama. It was there that he met Vyasadeva and explained his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita before him. Thus he became a great scholar by studying before Vyasadeva. So he went to Bharadikashrama, where Vyasadeva is still residing. But even if you go, and you go to the place where you're supposed to see him, you will not see him. He's invisible. He's waiting actually for a time to reappear, for his next mission. After a long, long time, he will manifest again. You can say anything else regarding that? When was it that he would appear? At the beginning of the next Kali, or something like that? No, anyway. Did you understand everything? Habt ihr alles verstanden hier? Yeah? By the time he came to Ananda Math from Barikashrama, Madhvacharya had finished his commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. His companion Satyatirtha wrote down the entire commentary. When Madhvacharya returned from Barikashrama, he went to Ganjama, which is on the bank of the river Godavari. Godavari is also a sacred river. Actually, that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Krishna. Krishna, who he asked questions. Ramananda Roy, yeah. Of course, the books always say Ramananda Raya, you know? Prabhupada said Ramananda Roy. Anyway, that's where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Ramananda Roy, on the bank of the Godavari. There he met with two learned scholars named Sobhana Bhatta and Swami Shastri. Later these scholars became known in the disciplic succession of Madhvacharya as Padmanabha Tirtha and Narahari Tirtha. They're mentioned in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. There's a whole list of all the acharyas. They also mentioned there. When he returned to Udupi, or at least one of them, when he returned to Udupi, he would sometimes bathe in the ocean. On such an occasion, he composed a prayer in 5 chapters. Once, while sitting beside the sea, engrossed in meditation upon Lord Sri Krishna, he saw a large boat containing goods for Dwarka was in danger. He gave some signs by which a boat could approach the shore, and it was saved. The owner of the boat wanted to give him a present, and at the time Madhvacharya agreed to take some Gopi Chandan. Gopi Chandan only. He's a rich man, he gave him, he only asked for Gopi Chandan. The deity, was a very special stone. He received a big lump of Gopi Chandan. As it was being brought to him, it broke apart and revealed a large deity of Lord Krishna. The deity had a stick in one hand and a lump of food in the other. As soon as Madhvacharya received the deity of Krishna in this way, he composed a prayer. The deity was so heavy that not even 30 people could lift it. Yet Madhvacharya personally brought this deity to Udupi. 8 of Madhvacharya's sannyasi disciples became directors of his 8 monasteries. Worship of the Lord Krishna, worship of the Lord Krishna deity is still going on in Udupi according to the plans Madhvacharya established. Madhvacharya then for the 2nd time visited Balishkarama. While he was passing through Maharashtra, the local king was digging a big lake for the public benefit. As Madhvacharya passed through that area with his disciples, he was also obliged to help in the excavation. After some time, when Madhvacharya visited the king, he engaged the king in that work and departed with his disciples. Often in the province of Ganga Pradesha, there were fights between Hindus and Muslims. The Hindus were on one bank of the river and the Muslims on the other. Due to the community tension, no boat was available for crossing the river. The Muslim soldiers were always stopping passengers on the other side, but Madhvacharya did not care for these soldiers. He crossed the river anyway, and when he met the soldiers on the other side, he was brought before the king. The Muslim king was so pleased with him that he wanted to give him a kingdom, and some money, but Madhvacharya refused. While walking on the road, he was attacked by some decoys, but by his bodily strength, he killed them all. When his companion Satyatirtha was attacked by a tiger, Madhvacharya separated them by virtue of his great strength. When he met Vyasadeva, he received from him the Shalagram Shila known as Ashtamurti. After this, he summarized the Mahabharata. So he was very strong, obviously. No? Yeah. Of course, one hears that he killed these attackers. No? Oh, how cruel. No? But actually that's a law, a Vedic law. Prabhupada mentioned that in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita, there's 5 kinds of attackers. And if they attack, you have a right to kill them without any karmic reaction. There's no karma. Somebody wants to kill you, you have a right to kill. Somebody attacks your wife, or how you say, or whatever it does with the wife, you have a right to kill him. If he puts some fire to the house, also, and if somebody puts some poison in your food, also. What is it, 5? Did I mention 5? Yeah, 5. Anyway, so we shouldn't be surprised. Actually, people killed by such a personality, they benefit. Being killed by Madhvacharya. Wow, Madhvacharya, please. Madhvacharya's devotion to the Lord and his erudite scholarship became known throughout India. Consequently, the owners of the Sringeri Math, established by Shankaracharya, became a little perturbed. At that time, the followers of Shankaracharya were afraid of Madhvacharya's rising power, and they began to tease Madhvacharya's disciples in many ways. There was even an attempt to prove that the disciplic succession of Madhvacharya was not in line with Vedic principles. A person named Pundarika Puri, a follower of the Mayavada philosophy of Shankaracharya, came before Madhvacharya to discuss the Shastras. It is said that all of Madhvacharya's books were taken away, but later they were found with the help of King Jayasingha, ruler of Kumla. In discussion, Pundarika Puri was defeated by Madhvacharya. A great personality named Trivikram Acharya, who was resident in Vishnu Mangala, became Madhvacharya's disciple. And his son later became Narayan Acharya, the composer of Sri Madhva Vijaya. After the death of Trivikram Acharya, the younger brother of Narayan Acharya took sannyas and later became known as Vishnu Tirtha. It was reputed that there was no limit to the bodily strength of Purna Pragya, Madhvacharya. There was a person named Kandanjali who was famed for possessing the strength of 30 men. Madhvacharya placed the back toe on his foot upon the ground and asked the man to separate it from the ground. But the great strong man could not do so even after great effort. Srila Madhvacharya passed from this material world at the age of 80 while writing a commentary on the Aitareya Upanishad. For further information about Madhvacharya, one should read Madhva Vijaya by Narayana Acharya. The Acharyas of the Madhva Sampradaya established Udupi as a chief center, and it's still there. I was never there, but anyway. And the monastery there was known as Uttadari Math. A list of the different centers of Madhvacharya Sampradaya can be found at Udupi, and their Math commanders are: first, Vishnu Tirtha, Soda Mata; 2, Janardana Tirtha, Krishna Pura Mata; 3, Vamana Tirtha, Kanuda Mat; 4, Narasingha Tirtha, Adamara Mat; 5, Upendra Tirtha, Putugi Mat; 6, Rama Tirtha, Shirura Mat; 7 Rishikesh Tirtha, Palimara Mat, and 8 Akshobhya Tirtha, Prajavada Mat. The disciplic succession of Madhvacharya Sampradaya is as follows. The dates are those of birth in the Shakapta era. For Christian era dates at 78 years. First, 1. Hamsa Paramatma. 2. Chaturmukha Brahma. 3. Sanakari. 4. Durvasa. 5. Jnananidhi. 6. Guru Vahana. 7. Kaivalya Tirtha. 8. Jnanesha Tirtha. 9. Paratirtha. 10. Satyaprakya Tirtha. 11. Prakya Tirtha. 12. Achyuta Preksharya Tirtha. 13. Sri Madhvacharya. 1040 Shaka. 14. Padmanabha, 1120. Narahari, 1127. Madhava, 1136. And Akshobhya, 1159. 15. Jayatirtha, 1167. 16. Vidya Diraja, 1190. 17. Kavindra, 1255. 18. Vagisha, 1261. 19. Ramachandra, 1269. 20. Vidyanidhi, 1298. Und so weiter. It's a long list. After the 16th Acharya, Vidya Raja Tirtha, Vidya Diraja Tirtha, there was another disciplic succession including Rajendra Tirtha, 1254. Vijayadvaj, Purushottam, Subramanya, and Vyasa Raja, 1470-1520. The 19th Acharya, Ramachandra Tirtha, and another disciplic succession, including Vibhudendra, 1218, Jitamitra, 1348, Raghunandana, Surendra, Vijendra, Sunindra, and Raghavendra Tirtha, 1545. To date, in the Udupi monastery, there are another 14 Madhva Tirtha sannyasis. As stated, Udupi is situated beside the sea in South Kannada, about 60 miles north of Mangalore. Hare Krishna, I hope you could understand my reading. Any questions regarding this?
I have a question.
Yes.
You said earlier that the Mahamantra, by chanting the Mahamantra, a person can achieve all perfection. Mm-hmm. And then also, all perfection is, in human form of life, is to develop this love of God. Mm-hmm. But can a person, simply by chanting Hare Krishna without surrendering to the spiritual master, can they still attain all perfection?
No. What did you expect?
Well, I don't understand this part. I mean, when it says that they can achieve all perfection by chanting Hare Krishna, does that mean that by chanting Hare Krishna, they'll develop?
Well, that's part of the perfection. You meet a spiritual master and everything goes as it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Everyone benefits by the chanting Hare Krishna. Not just you or your friends or your surroundings. The neighbors, the snakes that I mentioned here, the rats that hide under the temple or in the garden, alongside the garbage bins, rats who always come. Yeah. They also hear the chanting. Everyone hears the chanting. Everything becomes Krishnaized, how you say, purified, gradually. The air is full of living entities. Apparently, there's no space where there's no living entities. It's all filled with living entities. And they're all exposed to the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name. And they all benefit. But just like we become devotees, somebody comes and becomes interested in this and gradually becomes a devotee. In the beginning, we say, just chant Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Just chant Hare Krishna. No, chant Hare Krishna. No, chant Hare Krishna. And then gradually, things become more, more civilized, and the interest, deeper interest becomes awakened, and understanding things properly, like that. I just remember Prabhupada, at one point I heard Prabhupada say that no matter what one does, one should chant Hare Krishna. And whatever situation one is, please chant Hare Krishna. Just like now in many parts of the world, devotees are preaching to the inhabitants of jails. I mean, even during Prabhupada, that was also happening sometimes. And they go into the jails and they chant with them. And these guys, some of these guys have killed somebody, or not even one, but maybe many, or something like that. And they get them together and they sit there and hear Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And they might not understand anything, but they're benefited. Of course, they also bring prasad. And they really love it, I heard. I just got a letter. They were distributing prasad. And these people, they love the prasad. Yeah? Good. And who doesn't like the chanting and dancing and niceties of the devotees? When they started associating with the devotees. That's how we became devotees. I became a devotee just by being with a few devotees who were not even very knowledgeable. They were not even much devotees. They had just become devotees. Our oldest devotee in the temple was 3 years devotees when he came to Hamburg, Shivananda. But he became very attractive, being a devotee. And he didn't know very much. He was just very eager to serve Srila Prabhupada. He was a kind of Prabhupada fanatic. And it was very attractive. Yeah. He used to come to visit us, like I mentioned this sometimes already. We were living in a commune, kind of crazies together in one apartment in a very low area in Hamburg. And then one person came to visit us. He had been in the temple for a short while and blooped. So he was the first to introduce us to chanting and all this. And then we went, he took us to the temple. And when I came to the temple, Shivananda immediately put me, I say?
In the crosshairs.
In my crosshair. It was already like kind of, he started visiting us, He came, he had to travel through the whole city of Hamburg from one end to the other. We were living in Reeperbahn, in the nightclub area in Hamburg, and the temple was on the other side. And he came all the way in bicycle, with dhoti and kurta and everything, a sikha flying in the wind. Yeah. And he would come and say Hare Krishna and sit down and get his katas out. And then he kind of disappeared for a while. Then he was cooking for us. And then he left again. Like that. And he had us, kind of prospective, candidates of devotees. And when he started preaching in the temple, it was impossible to understand, because he didn't speak German, just very little, and he tried preaching in German, and we were just sitting like this, and we would hear him, kind of. Yeah, we were impressed. And on the altar there was Jagannath, but they didn't worship Jagannath. They had no idea how to worship Jagannath. They just put on the altar. He was not dressed or no puja, anything like that. They had just brought them. Shivananda had brought them. Yeah. He had brought them all the way from America in his luggage, big ones like this. Yeah. And first he tried to enter into England. They didn't want to let him in because they found Jagannath. Because in England at that time was a mecca of the hippies. No? And all the hippies from all of Europe came to London. And so the police was very alarmed, kind of on the border, when they didn't want the hippies to come, so many into England. And so when they opened his bag and found the Jagannath, he said, "God, no, here, no, you can't come in here." No? Very determined and very alone. He was alone. He came to Europe alone. There was nobody preparing anything, and how you say, renting some place or anything like that. He came alone. He had nothing. He didn't know where to go. He just sat on the street and chanted Hare Krishna, and those people who came close or asked him questions or whatever, he just asked them to help him, kind of. Why I'm speaking so enthusiastically about this, because we had the same experience at the time when we started here in Germany. Yeah. There was no big arrangement. There were no houses like this here, or farms, like that. It's just a few devotees. And we had no idea how to pay the rent, kind of. Shivananda had gotten a place, and at that time, of course, it was a different time. They didn't ask for any guarantees or banks or this. I also, when I went to München to open a temple, I was sitting in the street chanting Hare Krishna. And then somebody invited me to stay, or a couple invited me to stay with them. And then I was staying with them a few days, going out every day and chanting and coming back to their apartment. And then all of a sudden the girl says, "Look, there's a shop on the other side of the street for rent. Very small shop, darkish kind of, And I went there. And at that time it was not uncommon. I would go in Dodi to the guy who would rent the place. In Dodi, shaved, with Sika, like that. And the guy would, "Yeah, okay, okay, take it if you can pay." Anyway, I don't know why I'm telling this now. But that's how we became devotees, at least in the beginning. It was very adventurous. It was not so nicely set up, everything. And actually, I remember we liked it like that. Because we had this idea to have a counterculture, kind of different to what people were doing, with a different style of life. So that's actually how devotees young people became attracted to Srila Prabhupada in the beginning. They would go and see him, and he would sit on the floor with his legs crossed. And he had a little desk. This was his metal trunk, was his desk. And in the back they would see the clothes that Prabhupada washed himself. And not only that, Prabhupada was very eager to cook for them, to give them prasad. They couldn't believe it. Everywhere else you go to eat, you have to pay some pence. Now it's dollars, kind of. Yeah. But Prabhupada invited them to eat. And he encouraged to eat more. Not that he said, look, don't eat so much. Because, Prabhupada started cooking tremendous quantities. Yeah. And the news spread all over. Wow, there's nice food. And there's a Swami, Indian Swami there. Wow, everything exotic and all that. Yeah. And Prabhupada got us all entangled. No, actually, entangled, like a fish. You put a hook, with a nice worm, but underneath there's a hook. So Bhagavad also gave him all these nice things. And sooner or later we notice, now life has changed. And now we're here. And also very enthusiastic. We had found something so nice that we wanted to, and then we noticed something very strange, that most of the people were not interested. I remember when we started distributing books, we had this idea that, of course, the hippies, they were the first ones who would take the books. They would take all the books, because they're also in the same wave, the same wave as we before. Then we noticed, no, they wouldn't take the books. And to our surprise, we noticed that all kinds of other people started taking books. Those people we had rejected, and book distribution was completely like universal, without any discrimination. Because it's transcendental. What do you think? We passed time already. Overtime. Any more questions or commentaries? Yeah, but yes.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I was a bit late, but I heard what you were telling about book distribution. And my question is, what do you think? Is it okay when we are doing the same thing now? We are sitting alone somewhere in the park or on the square and chanting, or I don't know, because we are doing this, how to say,
you know what, in ISKCON history, ISKCON history was, in the beginning we would always chant, only chant, go on the street and chant, and we would distribute magazines. Books was something that was not heard of yet. And there were books, but we had no idea how to distribute them, or like when Prabhupada published the teachings of Chaitanya, teachings of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada printed them, and nobody had any idea that these books would be distributed. How are we gonna? How is this done? Like that. And so in the beginning there was only Harinam. I remember we chanted Harinam. Every 20 minutes the group changed. Those who chanted and those who distributed leaflets and whatever we had. Like that. But then as book distribution started, Prabhupada started to put more emphasis on book distribution. And there was even a time when the devotees were wondering what happened to our Harinam, because book distribution is so emphasized now. There was rarely any Harinam anymore. And of course now things are more, more balanced, I say in English. Yeah. There's more Harinam, and this is also very important. Of course it's important. But Srila Prabhupada, I received a letter from Prabhupada once. We had, I told you that already. We had smuggled some books into Poland at that time. And it was very, very, very heavy way we went through, we had to go through to get the books there. And then I wrote a letter to Prabhupada. We had gone there several times without books, not daring to take, because when they found the books, they put them immediately into the shredder. How you say? Shredder? When it becomes little pieces, the paper becomes little pieces. Yeah. So why were they doing that? Because they didn't want even the police to take the books with them. And that are not only done to our books, but whenever you travel into these countries, you have something printed, they would grab it and put it into the shredder. Especially things like newspapers and things like that. I remember there was one group of devotees that were traveling to India, to Moscow. This Aeroflot was at that time very cheap airline, so many of the devotees went from Europe to Moscow, stay a night, and then go to India. And there was one devotee, Jayatita. He actually became a very important devotee later on. And Jayatita, you know, he had something that a newspaper without knowing. You know? And when they found it, wow! They grabbed him and they put him. You know, they didn't let him continue whatever. You know, kind of it was a big thing. You know, they thought that he had smuggled a newspaper into Russia. Anyway, how did I get there now?
Because of book distribution at Harinam, this question. So, the importance of book distribution.
Yeah. So Prabhupada started putting a lot of emphasis on the book distribution. When they started, they made the first marathon in Los Angeles. And they Christmas marathon. They called it Christmas marathon at that time. And whenever there was Christmas marathon, everything would stop. You know, everyone would go out. Maybe Pujari would stay, but no more. And Prabhupada was very, very eager to hear the results. And in the beginning, Prabhupada was himself surprised when he heard the results. He couldn't believe it. Wow, you know what's happening. And then when they sent the results, or they read the results to him, Prabhupada said, okay, now double it. Then when they had doubled it, now triple it. And the surprising thing was that it happened, you know. Yeah. The Prabhupada put a lot of emphasis on the books. Because the books are actually the thing that remains. Yeah, that remains. And that's why Prabhupada wanted us to sell the books. For one reason is that we wanted to sell the books because they give more importance. When you buy something, you pay something, you don't throw it away. When you're given it free, so what? Big deal. I got it as a gift. Yeah. That's why we should always get something. We should always encourage people to give. Because they make progress. The more they give, better. I remember when we went out, sometimes somebody came up and said, oh, and then he wanted to give a big bill, you know, the 50 or 100 Deutsche Mark, you know. And we became accustomed to say, oh, little more. And we would say it with so much conviction that people, they thought it was big, but then they realized, well, actually, it's not that big, actually, what I'm giving. Yeah, did I answer the question? Not really, no?
Yes, certainly you answered, but my question was about this, because we are doing this firstly for our own purification, self-purification. Yes, that is also, that's why we are going to the stream. And you said that you were sitting alone,
Yeah.
chanting and selling books, yes? And
I didn't sell books. I just sat there and chanted.
The people were
And then the
reading
first book,
donations
they sent me the first box of the first book, Ishapanishad.
Yes.
And I put a stack on my side and a little basket and a price. I don't remember how much I put there. Some marks. There was no euros yet. And then the people came, and I was surprised that people would take these books and put the money in the basket.
But my question was, if it makes sense to do the same thing, for example, sitting alone.
Now you're much more organized. Yeah, now I have so much more experience. Now you better. How you say? It's not small time anymore. Now it's big time. Yeah. Now we're on a different dimension. We're on a big time dimension. Now millions of books have already been distributed. So what? Double it. And also this new Bhakta, you know, our new Bhakta, Manfred heißt er, ne? Oder? Ja. Moritz. Yeah. Yeah. He comes to the temple, you know, already has chanting mantras, you know. As a bhakta, you know, he sits in the yard and chants mantras like that, and then goes out to distribute books, you know. all alone. In the beginning, maybe accompanied by the other devotee. But now he's completely into the fire of book distribution. These are the, when there's a project, when there's a program, we just have to do something, organize something. Then Krishna sends us all the elements. He sends us nice devotees. He sends us. I heard once that there's a saying, when you conceive a child, depending on the consciousness of the parents, the child has a certain consciousness. And in the same way, like the atmosphere that we have created in our temples is also very important for those people who come to visit. When we're in the beginning, our temples were more like not so organized, and also I don't want to say it, but also crazy people would be in the temple, and new people come, and it was a different atmosphere. And according to that, other crazy people also felt attracted. At one point, Prabhupada said, "Our temples are not for the crazies, nor for the lazies." He said it as a kind of conclusion after experiencing things. So as long as we have a nice atmosphere in the temple, and the temple is nicely running, and also Sankirtan has become more prominent now over the years. And I remember years back, there was absolutely no Sankirtan, no book distribution here. Whenever I came for a few days or so, and there was a lot of problems. Now things have matured a lot. Srila Bhagavatam. Kannst du das ausschalten? Das war sehr gut leserlich.
Das ist
Super.
Kann ich dir verstehen?